protections and qualified immunity, and is brought to us by Daily Driven Exotics' channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Sometime in May of 2018, YouTuber, entrepreneur, and supercar enthusiast Damon was traveling through Beverly Hills, California when he was stopped by an officer from the Beverly Hills Police Department.
How's it going?
How are you?
Good, thanks. Can I see your driver's license, please?
Yeah, sure.
You have your registration and insurance?
Yeah.
What brings you to California, man?
Excuse me?
I said, what brings you to California?
Why would that be any of your business? I'm just hanging out.
Because you have a Canada driver's license? You don't have a... Where's your California driver's license?
I don't live here. I give you a Canadian driver's
So that's
license.
exactly what I'm trying to figure out. You're giving me smart answers, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of something.
It's not a smart answer.
It kinda
You're
is.
not customs. I don't need to explain to you why I'm here.
Okay, so you need a California driver's license to drive in California.
No, you don't.
You know, just like I know, that when a man with a Lamborghini and a Canadian passport gets pulled over in Beverly Hills, it was never about public safety. It was about power. The kind of power that the elite think they hold over the rest of us. And it starts with a simple traffic stop that turned into a lesson in how the system protects its own while trying to blackball a man for knowing the law better than the cop who swore to uphold it. Imagine you are Damon Fryer. You are a successful entrepreneur. You worked your butt off to get that car. You are a legal tourist, and you have a valid driver's license from British Columbia. That is not speculation. That is international law. We have a treaty.
International driver's license, and informs him that he is required to possess a driver's license issued by the state of California in order to legally drive in the state. The officer is likely referring to an international driving permit, which is commonly mistaken as an international driver's license, but does not carry the same degree of privilege as an actual license issued by a government body. An international driving permit is a translation of a domestic driver's license that allows the holder to drive a private motor vehicle in any country or jurisdiction that recognizes the document. International driving permits are governed by three international conventions: the 1926 Paris International Convention relative to motor traffic, the 1949 Geneva Convention on road traffic, and the 1968 Vienna Convention on road traffic. When a state is contracted to more than one convention, the newest one terminates and replaces previous ones. International driving permits are currently recognized by approximately 150 countries and jurisdictions under the authority of the Vienna and Geneva Conventions, respectively. Although the United States is among the countries that recognizes international driving permits, they are not necessarily required in every situation, and each state has the power to dictate what form of driver's license they choose to accept. However, in 1943, the United States entered into an exclusive agreement with Canada, Mexico, and other South American countries that allowed interstate travel without the requirement for an international driving permit at the Convention on the Regulation of Inter-American Automotive Traffic. Furthermore, while California Vehicle Code 12500 states that, quote, "A person may not drive a motor vehicle upon a highway unless the person then holds a valid driver's license issued under this code." The code also clearly recognizes that certain persons may be exempt from this law, and California Vehicle Code 12502 lists, quote, "A non-resident over the age of 18 years having in his or her immediate possession a valid driver's license issued by a foreign jurisdiction of which he or she is a resident as a valid exemption." Mr. Fryer is well within his rights to travel into any American state without first acquiring a license issued by that state, and that has been the case for nearly a century.
How are you doing?
Great, how are you?
Awesome, man. I'm allowed to film you.
I didn't say you weren't.
I don't know why you're shining the light on my camera then.
I'm just making sure I can see inside.
For nearly 100 years, since 1943, the United States has had a formal agreement with Canada. It says a Canadian can drive here without a California license, period. But the officer on the scene didn't care about the files or the facts. He cared about the uniform. He stopped Damon for a modified exhaust. Then he said it was a stop sign. Then he said it was the license. The story kept changing because the truth was never the point.
Do you have your passport with you?
Yeah.
Can I see it?
Yeah.
Do you have your international driver's license?
Excuse me?
Do you have your international driver's license?
You're a cop. You should know I don't need that. I'm a Canadian citizen. You have a treaty with us. I'm going to exit the vehicle to get my passport.
What is that? You actually do need it, just so you know.
No, you don't.
Okay, we'll find out right now.
Sure.
Okay.
Why'd you pull me over?
This your modified exhaust, the stop sign. You
There's
just
no
ran.
modified exhaust.
Okay.
And the what?
Sit in the car.
The what were you about to say?
Stop sign you just ran.
I didn't run a stop sign.
Just saw you.
Which one?
Lamita, sit down.
Which one?
I just told you. You're so busy asking me questions. You're not listening to my answers. I said the one on Lamitas.
I didn't run any stop sign. I have everything on camera.
Okay, that's fine. So do I.
Pardon?
I said so do I.
Sure.
Stay in the car, don't get out, man.
No, I won't. Wow. International driver's license. He obviously doesn't know what he's talking about.
The officer asks Mr. Fryer if he has an
Control was the point. And when Damon said, "I have everything on camera," the officer's response was telling. He said, "So do I." That was a threat. A threat from a man who knows that the institution will back his lie over your truth. But Damon stood his ground. He refused to be gaslit into admitting a crime that never happened. That is not arrogance. That is the spine of a man who knows that once you bow to a false accusation, you become their property.
And is 11 out on the foot beat?
Well, you don't need to do that by following the
It's
camera.
very defensive, sir. Why is that?
Because you pull me over and you don't know what for.
I told you what for. Look at your camera. You'll be able to see what for.
I didn't do anything though. You lied about the stop sign,
I didn't
and you
lie.
don't understand what exhaust is on my car. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So I'm citing you for not having a California driver's license, and I'm also citing you for having a modified exhaust. So go ahead and sign right here. Send admission of guilt. Just promising you'll take care of the citation.
What's that for?
I just told you.
No, you didn't. What was it?
Modified exhaust, right? One.
Yeah.
And not having a California driver's license.
I don't need a California driver's license.
Okay. So can you sign here, please?
And if I don't?
I have to take you to jail.
Really?
Yeah.
Here, the officer informs Mr. Fryer that if he refuses to sign the citation, then he will be taken to jail, which aligns with California law. Under subsection B of California Vehicle Code 40302, an individual may be arrested and taken before a magistrate if they, quote, refuse to give his or her written promise to appear in court, which essentially translates to refusing to sign a citation. As the officer explained, citations are
Now, let's reframe something. Most people look at a guy in a Lamborghini and think he is the bad guy, the flash, the money, the noise. But in this story, the Lamborghini owner is the unlikely silenced hero. He is the whistleblower who caught the corruption on tape. He didn't scream, he didn't run, he didn't play the victim. He asked the simplest question any American should ask a public servant. What did I do wrong? And when the answer was a lie, he said, no. You don't have that authority. That is not disrespect. That is the last line of defense between a citizen and a badge that has forgotten it works for the people. Damon went down to the Beverly Hills police station that same night. He didn't just complain. He filed an official record. He knew what we all know. If it is not on paper, it never happened. And they don't want you to know that. They want you to think filing a complaint is a waste of time. They want you to believe the officer's word is gospel. But Damon made sure there was a document. He made sure there was a trail. He exposed the rot, not with a weapon, but with patience and a camera. Here is where the real names and real events start dropping. The officer was from the Beverly Hills Police Department. The date was May 2018. The law is California Vehicle Code Section 12502. It explicitly exempts a non-resident over 18 who has a valid foreign license. That is not a secret. It is printed in black and white. But the officer acted like Damon was carrying a toy ID.
not an admission of guilt, and they serve as nothing more than a promise to appear before the court regarding the alleged violation. As we have discussed many times on ATA, officers are generally within their authority to arrest citizens for nearly any violation, regardless of whether the violation is a misdemeanor or a felony offense. And citations offer citizens a convenient way to avoid being taken to jail until they can appear before a magistrate. If Mr. Fryer had refused to sign the citation, the Beverly Hills officer would have been well within his authority to arrest him and take him to jail until a magistrate became available. It should be noted that not all states have drafted laws that require citizens to sign citations, and it is often left to the officer's discretion and departmental policy to determine the appropriate course of action. The Beverly Hills officer also informs Mr. Fryer that he is being issued a citation for a modified exhaust, and Mr. Fryer claims that he does not have an aftermarket exhaust on his vehicle. Section 27150.1 of the California Vehicle Code prohibits the sale and installation of motor vehicle exhaust systems that fail to meet the regulations and standards applicable to the code. And Section 27150.2 states that exhaust systems installed on motor vehicles with a manufacturer's gross vehicle weight rating of less than 6,000 pounds may emit no more than 95 decibels of sound when tested in accordance with Society of Automotive Engineers standard. Therefore, even if Mr. Fryer's exhaust system was not modified in any way, he may still be in violation of California's vehicle code if his exhaust emits a sound louder than 95 decibels. When a citizen is issued a citation for a modified exhaust in California, they are generally required to obtain a certificate of compliance from a state testing facility pursuant to Section 44036 of the California Health and Safety.
Because he could. Because the doctrine of qualified immunity creates a monster. The Supreme Court built this shield in cases like Harlow versus Fitzgerald in 1982. It says that even when an officer is dead wrong, he cannot be sued unless a prior court case with nearly identical facts already told him he was wrong. That is a get-out-of-jail-free card for ignorance. In the 2017 case Baxter versus Bracey, a court said it was not clearly established that it was unconstitutional to let a police dog maul a man who was sitting down with his hands up because the previous case involved a man lying down. Sitting versus lying down. That is the demonic level of legal gymnastics they use to protect the Brotherhood in Blue.
Code to ensure that their vehicle is compliant with California's exhaust noise standard. Whether or not Mr. Fryer was actually in violation of California's exhaust laws is impossible to determine without the proper sound measuring equipment, but the officer would be within his authority to issue Mr. Fryer a citation for a modified exhaust based on his observations, and allow a court to determine whether the citation was in fact valid.
Is that part of the, not having a driver's license thing too?
California. So like I said, it's not an admission of guilt, just promising you'll take care of the citation. So with that being said, your car is subject to tow.
What?
Why? Because you're driving your own license in California.
I can do that.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I can. I have a Canadian driver's license. It's not illegal to drive here with that.
Okay, that's what I'm telling you. So my suggestion to you is I'm not going to tow your car. I'm letting you know that your car is subject to tow. Okay? So with that being said, I suggest that you probably go and park your car somewhere and not drive anymore. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any questions about it?
Yeah, I just don't understand how you don't understand the law and how you're enforcing something on me that's not legal.
Okay, like I said,
Yeah, it's all good.
you're innocent until proven guilty, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like I said, the cite, it's an admission of guilt, just promise you'll take care of the citation.
Yeah.
With that being said, sir, if I see you again driving the car, I will tow it.
You have no permission to tow my car.
I do.
No, you don't.
Okay, so I can do it now. I'm choosing not to. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into this little match with you. I'm just letting you know, and I'm advising you right now because I would rather not do that.
It's because you know you can't.
That is why the officer in Beverly Hills felt safe threatening to tow the car. He knew that even if he was wrong, the system would clean up his mess. And that is why the audience watching this should be outraged. Not just for Damon, but for every ordinary person who doesn't have a dash cam or a Lamborghini to get attention. Think about the bigger cultural moment here. This video didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened at the peak of the body cam revolution. Ordinary citizens finally had the tools to expose what the corporate media refused to show. Mainstream outlets spent years calling people paranoid for recording police. They called it anti-police. But we all knew a truth. We knew the cameras would reveal what happens when the elite thinks no one is watching. And this video is part of that awakening. It is the moment when the average person realizes that the badge does not come with moral authority. Authority without accountability is tyranny. And every time a citizen like Damon forces an officer to explain a law he doesn't understand, the legend grows. The legend of the citizen journalist. The legend of the man who refused to bow. That is why this video matters. It is not about the car. It is about the principle. It is about the moment you realize that the people who are supposed to protect you will break the rules to break you.
Letting you know, and I'm advising you right now because I would rather not do that.
It's because you know you can't.
I can.
I mean, you can, but at the end of the day,
absolutely
I'm right,
can.
you're wrong, but you'll still do it. I get it.
Here, the officer informs Mr. Fryer that his vehicle is subject to being towed because he does not have a California-issued driver's license, and Mr. Fryer disagrees. As we discussed earlier, Mr. Fryer's Canadian driver's license is recognized by all 50 states as valid, and the officer would not be within his authority to tow Mr. Fryer's vehicle based on this violation. All that said, officers are permitted to make reasonable mistakes while in the field under the doctrine of qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is a legal concept that protects government officials from lawsuits alleging that the official violated a citizen's rights, and was first formulated in the 1982 Supreme Court case of Harlow versus Fitzgerald. The Fitzgerald case established the notion of qualified immunity for federal government officials, and it wasn't until the 1986 case of Malley versus Briggs that the Supreme Court considered expanding the protections offered by qualified immunity to state police officers. The notion of qualified immunity is built upon the idea that officers should not be subject to being sued for making an honest mistake in the field, and whether or not an officer is entitled to qualified immunity depends largely on the reasonableness of their actions. In the 1987 case of Anderson versus Creighton, the Supreme Court held that, quote, whether an official protected by qualified immunity may be held personally liable for an allegedly unlawful official action generally turns on the objective legal reasonableness assessed in light of the legal rules that were clearly established at the time it was taken. The court concluded that so long as an officer's actions were reasonable and no clearly established jurisprudence existed to show otherwise, then they would be entitled to qualified immunity regardless of their actions. There are a litany of issues associated with qualified immunity, but one of its biggest flaws is the notion that police misconduct must violate a right that had already been clearly established by previous cases, which essentially leaves first-time victims of police misconduct with no legitimate recourse for their experiences. For example, in the 2017 Supreme Court case of Baxter versus Bracey, an appeals court ruled that it was not clearly established that it was unconstitutional to release a police dog on a surrendering suspect sitting with his arms raised, despite the fact that the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals had previously ruled that officers violated the Fourth Amendment when they released a police dog on a suspect who had surrendered by lying down.
But here is the ugly ending. There is no resolution. The officer was not fired. He was not charged. He went home that night and probably had a laugh about the rich kid in the fancy car. The complaint was filed, but what happened to it? We don't know. We may never know. That is the system they built. A system where complaints vanish into a drawer and qualified immunity sweeps the rest under the rug. The officer even told Damon that if he saw him again, he would tow the car. That was not a promise of justice.
The officers essentially hinge their argument for qualified immunity on the distinction between sitting down with hands raised as a form of surrender versus laying down on the ground. These ambiguous distinctions in what is and is not considered clearly established law are a major point of controversy, and many legal scholars contend that the current interpretation of qualified immunity has devolved into an all-encompassing shield to protect obvious corruption and misconduct. Since its inception, the qualified immunity doctrine has been thoroughly criticized for failing to consider the practical and human implications associated with the concept. But nonetheless, the Supreme Court has refused to consider cases challenging the legality and constitutionality of the doctrine, although it has had many opportunities to address the subject. So while the officer was clearly wrong about his authority to tow Mr. Fryer's vehicle, there is a very high chance that he would be entitled to qualified immunity if he had decided to tow the car, because of the lack of clearly established precedent regarding the legality of driving without a state-issued license.
Okay, so
You're
that's
just playing
the way you feel
hardball.
about
It's
it.
all good, dude.
Okay, so like I said, if I see you again, I will tow your car, sir.
Yeah.
Okay? You have yourself a good night.
Yeah, you too, man.
Thank you.
After issuing Mr. Fryer citations for driving without a valid license and a modified exhaust, he left the scene without further incident. After conferring with his friends for a moment, Mr. Fryer got back into his vehicle and drove to the Beverly Hills police station to file a formal complaint.
Okay, so tell me,
I'm going to record this. If that's what
it's already recorded.
No,
24/7.
For myself.
Okay,
Thanks.
do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So what documentation do you have, like as far as your ID or license, or because you got to understand, I'm trying to recreate what you're telling me happened in the field.
Yeah. Valid insurance and registration.
So you're visiting?
I am.
Okay. And you reside
In British Columbia
Columbia.
and Victoria, yes.
Okay.
And that's all valid current
That
information.
was a warning. A warning that the next time, the rules would bend even further. And that should make your blood boil. Because if they can do this to a man with resources and cameras, what do you think they do to the single mother in a 10-year-old Toyota with no camera and no lawyer? What do you think they do to the teenager who doesn't know his rights?
Any foreign resident that has a foreign issued driver's license.
I'm not a
can drive.
resident.
No, I'm just saying they can drive,
All
right?
right, yeah.
So you got a citation for something you should not have received.
Correct.
That's item one.
And then the threat to take my vehicle away from me based on that citation, which doesn't exist.
Okay, so the good news is that did not happen. You have your car.
I have my car at the moment, but I want to go for dinner in Beverly Hills, and I don't want to be harassed while I'm here for the rest of my 5-day visit.
Got it. Okay. So then what is the desired outcome? Did you want me to speak to the officer about this? What is your end goal? What is it that you'd like to have happen?
Correct. I've been through this. So I would like, I'd like to file a complaint, and I'd like the officer to be educated on the international, Canadian, U.S. driving, whatever the legal jargon is, that I can drive on this license.
Right.
And I'm not to have my vehicle towed if he sees me around Beverly Hills again.
Okay.
I could very easily say I don't want to file a complaint. I just want him to talk to the officer. But I have a funny feeling in this situation that if he only talks to the officer, there will be nothing on record that I was ever here and this has ever happened. So I'm going to make sure I file a complaint. That way, if this does happen a second time, there will be a record of it.
So what kind of car do you have?
I have a 2016 Lamborghini Huracan.
Ooh, nice. I'm not a big car guy, but I'm...
The silence is the answer. The silence is the crime. So I have to ask you directly, if you were in that Lamborghini, would you have signed the ticket just to make it go away? Or would you have stood your ground like Damon did? And more importantly, what do you think happens to the complaints that never make it to YouTube? Let me know in the comments below, because if we don't talk about it, they win.
That sounds expensive. What else can we help you with?
That's it?
That's it.
I would just like to go for dinner and not get pulled over and get my car towed tonight. Is that going to work? Or is Pena going to enforce that?
Just drive safely. That's all I can say.
I always do, sir.
All right, nice meeting you. Take care, sir. Thank you.
After filing his complaint, Mr. Fryer left the station and went to dinner without any issues. It is unclear whether Mr. Fryer followed up this encounter with additional legal action. Overall, the Beverly Hills officer gets an F for misrepresenting California's license requirements, displaying a fundamental misunderstanding of the laws regarding foreign drivers, and for threatening to tow Mr. Fryer's vehicle despite having no legal authority to do so. It is clear from the video that the officer was not within his authority to issue Mr. Fryer a citation for driving without a license, but it is impossible to determine whether this officer issued these citations out of ignorance or negligence. Whatever the case may be, it is difficult to justify being unaware of a nearly 100-year-old agreement between major countries that directly applies to many aspects of policing. And given the fact that Beverly Hills is one of the foremost tourist destinations in the entire country, it's also hard to believe that this officer has never encountered a foreign driver's license before. As mentioned earlier, it would be extremely difficult for Mr. Fryer to seek any kind of recompense if his car had been towed due to the current interpretation of qualified immunity. And this interaction highlights the fact that qualified immunity can play a role in even the most minuscule and unassuming police encounters. It should also be noted that the officer originally claimed that he stopped Mr. Fryer for running a stop sign, but ultimately did not issue him a citation for it. This is an interesting aspect of the encounter because it was the only offense that the officer would have had undeniable evidence to prove in court if he were recording the encounter as he claimed. It is unclear why the officer did not write Mr. Fryer a citation for running the stop sign, but it very well could have been because Mr. Fryer informed the officer that he had a dash cam and had been recording as well. Much of the officer's conduct in this interaction is questionable and subject to speculation, but I will leave it to you to decide what you believe the officer's true intentions were. Mr. Fryer gets an A+ for remaining calm and collected throughout the interaction, respectfully challenging the officer's conduct, and for following up this encounter with the proper channel of complaint. Despite being issued questionable citations, threatened to have his car towed, and
And we already know they've been winning for too long.